Hello everyone, my name is Art and I am an online course creator. So at the beginning of this year, I decided I wanted to teach people how to work remotely. And one of the biggest challenges that I currently have is to find my product market fit. In the online education space or in the creator space, we talk about creator market fit because the product is effectively you as a teacher, in this case, your knowledge, your skills that you want to pass on. The main difficulty is to figure out which specific aspects of your expertise match up with the demand of your customers. Today in this video, I just want to share my approach to doing customer discovery and customer validation. So a little bit of a backstory. Initially, when I started with course creation earlier this year, I wanted to do a course about brand strategy. And as you see, I set up a Gumroad page with this course, charged people for it. Some people bought it, seemed to like it, but then when I looked into the analytics, the actual story was a little bit different. So even the people who paid full price, very few of them actually completed the full course. And you might say, okay, what's the problem? You received the payment anyway, so isn't that good for you? But I would argue that as a course creator, you are trying to improve the product, right? And so in order to improve your educational product, you would need feedback from the students. What works, what doesn't, what's easily understood, and what isn't. I joined this program called On Deck Course Creators, and one of the most interesting things I took away was an approach whereby you would start not with the finished self-paced course, but you would initially do live sessions to test the material. And there are a couple of people that come to mind which are doing that successfully or which have been doing it successfully. So it's Cam Hauser and Julia Saxena over at Minimum Viable Video. They have been doing workshops for months before actually rolling out a product. Secondly, Mary Poulin from Notion Mastery, and she called it public office hours. So one of the advantages of this approach is people who don't know you yet can join these free office hours, and they have a first touch point with you as an educator, right? If they like what they see, maybe they will follow you and are more willing to convert into a paying student. And then thirdly, Danny Canassa from the Notion Academy. So I will show you what I use and how I go about it. The idea is to break down the entire content into smaller bite-sized pieces that I could present and teach in 1 hour. So let's say remote leadership is the overall course, but then a subtopic is remote team meetings. Another subtopic is remote hiring. Another subtopic is remote documentation. And so for all of these subtopics, I am offering free office hours. So free office hour just pretty much means I create an event, and in the event, I will share some best practices, but the participants will also go through some exercises to actually practice what they're hearing. So let me show you. One of the coolest tools I've discovered this year was Luma. So what Luma does is it plugs in with your Zoom account, and when you create a Zoom event, Luma creates a event page for you, which looks much more beautiful than an email that would just include a link. But most importantly, it helps you with event logistics. So event logistics means people can sign up and register to the events. So if I wouldn't have been logged into the platform, it would ask me to give my first name, last name, email address, And then as an event host, you can add questions to it. Then you have a description page. And once someone is signed up, what they will receive is a event reminder an hour before the event, or event reminder 5 minutes before the event. And they will have also calendar invite with the correct Zoom link. So that's pretty cool. All right. So why did I say that the questions are super important is because I usually set up these events 2 weeks in advance, and I just picked the topic. So the first one was remote team meetings, and in the event creation setup, I add a question, which is this one. What would you like to know and have by the end of this session? It's a mandatory question I ask. And the reason I'm asking this is I want to know what people think is valuable to them, right? So what do they want to get away from this session? I'll show you in a second how I'm turning the answers from this into an actual agenda. But yeah, so just quickly to show you how you would do it, you create an event. You say, for example, yada show. You can add a cover photo. It integrates into Zoom. Yeah, you can also do a Clubhouse link, but for my case, I'm doing Zoom because Zoom offers breakout rooms. You select the date, a time, duration, say 30 minutes is fine. Once the event is created, you will get a link that you can share, and the page will look like something like this. And in here, you have the section called questions where you add a question. So here would be, what do you phrase it something along these lines. Mark it as required, update questions, and then it's added. So if we look what the landing page looks like, yada show, sign up, and then you have to answer this question. Good. So what would I do with all the responses? So I usually create the landing page. Once it looks something like this, nice cover photo, a little bit of a description, event information. So kind of it's a free workshop. We will touch best practices in remote team meetings. Then stating some of the problems or topics we would like to discuss, and then some initial sense of the takeaways. So I usually write understand the fundamentals of good remote meetings, because if you have a 60-minute session, you can spend 5 minutes talking about like one core idea that's important to understand. And then if you already have some sort of asset that you can give away as a freebie, just add it in here. It will increase the conversions. So you share it. I usually do LinkedIn and Twitter, and then ask a couple of people to reshare it. And yeah, then I just wait once the responses drop in. So what you can then check out is on the events page, and because this is a past event, I, for example, had 19 signups. You just then click on the icon with the participants, and you can click this button right here to download the guest lists, but also their responses as a CSV. So click on it, boom, downloads it. And what I would usually do in the next step is I would upload this information into Google Drive. I currently don't have Excel, so if you upload it in Google Drive, it will show up as a CSV, and gives you then the option to open it with Google Sheets. So once you do that, you can edit the sheets. Good. So this is what the sheet looks like. I've taken away some of the sections right here, so because they're not relevant for now. You have your participants, which I'll blur out. And then the 2 questions I asked was, please describe your main challenges with remote work. But then, what would you like to know and have by the end of the session? So this gives me a general understanding of the main issues, right? But I think the second question, so what would you like to know and have by the end of the session, is a much, much more important question, because that can inform you what actual assets you should create. So let's go through it line by line. So first person response, ideas on how we can improve the remote work experience for team members. This is good, but is not directly tied to team meetings. So this is just like a general statement, but it doesn't give me an idea of what kind of asset I want to create. So then the second person says tools for better facilitation. And this is pretty interesting because I am thinking already tools for better facilitation could mean tool stack for remote teams. So what kind of software can they use if they want to have better facilitation? That's good, and that can be one asset I can create. So then secondly, make effective and actionable meetings. That is almost like a checklist for running effective meetings. And then you just go through it one by one. So I've hidden this column, but effectively what I would do is I would start empty without anything, and I would just start taking notes once I see or have some sort of idea what I could be creating. And so the basic idea is you just take the input of the participants and you ask them what they want to hear, and then you translate their answers into agenda topics. Of course, my mom's calling. Okay. So here it looked like this, and everything that I've bolded in my notes is an idea for a specific asset. So meeting stack means tools. Cool. So once I have these ideas, I usually structure all of my knowledge and all of the notes I personally take for this course in Notion. And so each event gets a Notion page. So let's go into remote team meetings. And the Notion page looks as follows. It's a template where I have a table of contents at the beginning. Then I have a section for content. So once the presentation is done, I just recap all of these talking points into a written format. And then at the bottom, I have Notion databases for artifacts. So artifacts are what I called assets in the previous sheet. So those are anything that a person can take away and use as a standalone item. So then best and worst is a database of best practices and worst practices. Tools is a database of different types of software you can use for meetings. Further reading, I think that's self-explanatory. It's just like a bunch of links to blog posts, Twitter threads, or YouTube videos. And then requests is anything that I take a note of during the event. So if some questions arise, I just add it and then I can update the page. One cool thing about the page approach is it's an easy summary and giveaway after the events to all the course participants. But at the same time, if you create it as a shared page, you can use that as a lead magnet. So you just say, I have this resource which documents a bunch of knowledge about remote team meetings, and if you want to have access to it, give me your email address. Easy as that. Let's quickly talk through, so content, self-explanatory, but then here at the bottom is the list of artifacts. And so maybe you remember one of the requests here was concrete steps on how to conduct better meetings. And so this gave the idea to a meeting checklist. So then I just created a meeting checklist. And the meeting checklists are a couple of items that you can do in the different phases of the meeting preparation, during the meeting, and after the meeting. So this is an artifact, and it stems directly from what students who signed up to the event told me. And you can go on and on and on. I will stop right here because I know that's already a lot of information, and maybe if people are interested, I can dive into how I would set up these event-specific pages. But in a nutshell, finding course creator market fit, I do it through giving free workshops right now. And in those free workshops, I don't pretend like I would know what the students want to hear, but instead I just create an events page and ask the students what they want to hear. And then once they tell me what they want to hear, I start working on the content. As easy as that. So a couple of days ago, I gave a workshop on the topic of documentation. And one of the participants, when I showed them how I would prepare these sessions, said, it's crazy. It's almost like a magical experience when you join a session and people see that you're talking about topics that they are interested in. Because he specifically forgot even that he answered this question, but the workshop was tailored to all the participants. And so I think it's a pretty cool way of identifying what people want while also at the same time building the content for your own course. Secondly, creating a asset that you can even use as a lead magnet. And so it checks a lot of boxes. I find it super helpful. And yeah, let me know what you think about it. If there's any more questions, just drop them in the comments below. But I hope this was helpful, and yeah, go and do great things. Have a nice day.